Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. How about an early May tour of my garden? It's May the 1st, let's go see what's growing. Okay, so it's May. Wow, the time has gone by so quickly this year. From starting my garden and all my little seedlings, and from how tiny and diminutive they were when I first put them out, now I've got a veritable jungle growing here. And it's only going to get more jungly as the heat kicks in. My growing season for spring will be over in a month and a half to 2 months, and I'll need to be thinking about summer gardens. I'm going to be growing sweet potatoes, cowpeas, eggplant, probably some okra, and maybe a few other things in the heat of the summer. But right now it's spring, and I'm starting to get a harvest. My tomatoes are just now starting to come in, some of my dwarfs and micro dwarfs. I've been eating those like candy. So delicious, man. I've so missed that. I miss the sweet taste of a good tomato. I don't know who it is. I think Jess at Roots and Refuge says the taste of a store-bought tomato is disappointment. I think the taste of a store-bought tomato is despair. They're awful. I can't stand them. But I've been eating some good tomatoes this year. I got a bunch more about to come in. My single seed challenge has put on fruit. Alarmingly, my single seed challenge first flush of fruit has been plagued with blossom end rot. And it's not a calcium issue. I put plenty of calcium in that soil. It's an inconsistent watering issue. So I'm trying to stay on top of that, and I've got some good fruits coming in there. Let's go take a look around, see what's going on. All right, so here are my gigantic eggplant plants, and they're starting to put on some blossoms. That's encouraging. I'm gonna get some eggplant. I have 2 or 3 blossoms here and several looking like they're gonna come out. I've got some over here. I have 3 of these plants, and yeah, that's encouraging. My backup peppers are doing fine. I'm going to do a pepper topping video and recreate and totally rip off my previous video. Go watch Rachel Andorfer. She did a good job showing you pepper pruning and the results. But yeah, I'm going to do another video myself as well because that's a popular topic. Here's my tomatoes. They're about as tall as I want them to be. This guy I'll start topping. They're starting to put on blossoms, and some of these indeterminates like this need to be thinned out because you can see there's some yellowing leaves down there. Not getting a lot of sunlight down there, and that's a sign you need to thin out all this bushiness. And that includes taking off these foliar branches, but not necessarily your growing branches, your fruiting branches. Take off some foliar stuff down in here. Here's what I mean by clean up and clean out. You can see now I've come in and trimmed up this plant so that there can be air circulation, especially down in here. Most of those leaves on the interior can get some sun at some part of the day, and I've just opened it up a little bit. Lima beans, man, they totally covered that trellis. Check that out. Awesome. There's my other eggplant putting on some blossoms there. Here's my, I forget what variety this is, but that's an oddly shaped tomato. But I'm getting some fruits here, and I'm getting some fruits on that one over there as well. That's encouraging. A couple of pepper plants here with lots of fruit on them. And my tomatillos. That's a tomatillo plant. I've got another one tucked under here. My other tomatillo plant got pushed over because my gigantic kale got blown over first this way, and then I propped it up, and then it got blown over this way. It may be time for that guy to come out. Been harvesting onions. There they are drying. They're not very big, but they started dying back. I think the heat is just too much for them, and so that's about as big as I could get them. I would have liked to have got them into the ground earlier, but yeah, I didn't plant them in time. There'll be some good big bulbs in there. That guy right there is going to be a huge bulb, but yeah, at least I got onions. And you know what, I've been pickling these and they're delicious. Thought, you know, how do you preserve your harvest? I love pickled onions. So this is my red onions pickled in red wine vinegar and a little bit of rice vinegar, and these are my white onions pickled in rice wine vinegar and some mango infused vinegar, along with a couple of peppers from my garden several years ago. And yeah, a little brown sugar, a little water, a little vinegar. Man, this is like candy. There is my single seed challenge. That tomato in that blue bucket, that is a black Russian. Look at these beautiful fruits. Check that tomato out. Isn't that awesome? Look at this. It's literally the darkest tomato I've ever seen. It's like an eggplant. Got this one and this little guy here. This one coming in down here and a lot more blossoms. But I took off all the ones that had blossom end rot. I don't want the plant putting the effort into maintaining those fruits if they're not going to be any good. And all the dwarfs, micro dwarfs, and little guys down here are doing fine. Check this out. See that? That's candy right there. Yum. Got some little ones coming in there too. And if I look around here, I find these little hidden gems that are starting to come in and fill these plants up. Look at that. I mean, that's awesome, isn't it? And there's a lot of tomatoes coming in here, a lot of blossoms. Shake that up a little bit, help that get pollinated. Yeah, these tomato plants really bring joy to me. In fact, that one, I'm going to eat that one right there. Look at that. This one is Jocholos, I think. I think that's how you say it. Jocholos micro, or maybe Yocholos micro. It's not as tasty as that yellow dwarf I was just munching on, but they're good. I mean, a real tomato, even the worst real tomato you grow in your garden, is better than store-bought. Check these guys out. These are my dragon tongue beans, starting to put on fruit. I've been tasting them and they're very beany. As snap beans, I don't know if they're going to work. I'm going to let them get a little bit larger and actually feel the bean in there. And I'm going to taste them at different stages. I've never had this. If you've had dragon tongue beans, tell me how you like to pick them, what stage, because there's a lot of beans in here now. These are my squash plants. My Napoli, I always forget what they are. I call them stripy guys. Started these from seed. Look how big that gigantic thing is now. Started those from seed and they quickly caught up with these that I bought as plant starts. These are a gray Mexican type and we're going to go harvest some. But just look at the giant mound of zucchini plants. And I've got some others over there too. I try to get these zucchinis in really early because I want to beat the vine borers, because they're showing up, they're going to show up and they're going to destroy these plants, and I'll have to put something else in here. But until then, I'm growing some good food. Do you see it? Big old stripy guy. We're going to harvest that sucker and a couple of others. Man, I've been waiting on these for so long. Let's get in here and do a snippety snip. Look at that. That's awesome. Oh dear, that's way down in there. There's another one right there. Look at that. Awesome. All right, here's another one right here. Look at that. That's something else. I've got this one here. It's a little small. I'll let that one plump up a bit. Some more coming in. Man, I'm getting some squash before the vine borers get to my squash plant. That makes me happy. Well, dropping my clippers. Look at that. That's awesome. Praise God. All right, what else we got going down in here? We got this that needs to come off. Ooh. That looks like a borer. This one's a little rotten actually. Yeah, that's been on the ground too long. That's what you don't want to see. Look at that. All right, so much for that one. Get that to the compost pile. There's today's harvest. I got 2 of these stripy guys and 2 of these Mexican gray zucchinis. So yeah, store those in the fridge and wait for the rest of them to come in. My citrus trees, my new ones, I have potted them up and I'm going to let them grow in there probably the rest of this year. And next year I'll put them in larger pots, and I'm going to keep these citrus trees small and manageable, but they're doing just fine. Really pleased with those. Here are my potatoes. These are my red potatoes, and the plants are looking a little worse for wear over here, but I think they're almost done. But if I dig down in here, I find that I've got some potatoes. Where are they? Of course, when I go dig on video, can't find anything. But I've already harvested actually a few of these potatoes, and yeah, it's getting close. Once these are done, I'm going to plant sweet potatoes in these barrels, just like these guys over here. These are my sweet potato slips from the previous video I did last week, and they seem like they're taking off. Someone commented, I'm going to need a bigger trellis if these perform anywhere like they do in Louisiana. Yeah, I am. I'll be putting another piece of this hog wire right there. And whatever sprawls, sprawls. Speaking of trellising, check this out. These are my Armenian cucumbers. These are a heat-loving cucumber. And I really need to get them up on a trellis because they're already long enough to be clipped up a trellis. I don't really want them sprawling like that. I want them growing vertically. It's just more healthy for the plant. Nasturtiums are doing fine in the middle there. Look at those beautiful flowers. That's awesome. I got another nasturtium to show you too. We'll get around to that. I got a few more tomatoes and peppers in this garden. You can see these pole beans over here are now running up this little structure I've made, and they actually help to give it some structural integrity by binding up the sticks. So yeah, I'm gonna have some beans. Here's my kaffir lime, a couple citrus, another bunch of pole beans over here. And these are my other sweet potatoes I planted in my sweet potato video. They seem to be doing well too. These are different varieties. So I'm hopeful. And finally, after waiting so long, they just needed some heat. My mustard greens started coming in. And yeah, look at that lush growth, man. Start harvesting and eating off of that. Follow my channel at all, you know about my micro vineyard here. This is my muscadine grapevine. They will triple in size in terms of foliage by the end of September, and they'll be hanging way down here. But I'm gonna have a lot of fruit this year. I can see the little florets coming in. That's gonna be lots of fruit. I harvested a lot from these guys this past year. Real pleased with this vineyard. You got to stay on top of properly pruning these things and taking care of them and tending the vines, but when you do, you get a lot of fruit out of it. Man, there's a lot of fruit coming in on here. Wow, this is awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a real harvest this year. Down here I got these beautiful cosmos. I think that's cosmos or zinnia, I don't remember. I planted a bunch of flowers and they're really paying off. My refugees are doing great, starting to put on beans and fruit. And there's another batch of potatoes. These are those red Lesotho potatoes, and they're starting to look kind of done as well. So I'll have another bunch of spuds down in that container. That's 5 bunches of spuds. And then I've got these guys here. This is another bunch of spuds. These are russet potatoes. And I failed to hill these up. If I hill these up, I'll get some more. These are indeterminates. But haven't done it yet. Somebody asked about my figs. Well, here they are. All the figs that I pruned are looking like a jungle here. Now, I fertilize my figs regularly, but I have not started my fertilization regimen this year, and therefore some of them are losing out. They're lacking some nitrogen. You can see the leaves are turning yellow on a few of those. And a few I did do some emergency fertilizing on because they were looking yellow, and they perked back up. So that's, I know what the problem is. I just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah, they're doing great. Check out my cuttings. These are all the cuttings I took from some trees while I was pruning them this past fall. I'm sorry, this past spring. And they're really taking off too, so I'll have some extra trees there. My goal with my figs, here's the deal. I got so many figs out here. I really need this space to grow food. And figs aren't an efficient food crop. I'm going to choose the 5 best tasting figs that I can find, and I'm going to keep those and sell the rest of my fig plants at some point. You know, that's hard to say. Then you end up going and starting more fig trees like a crazy man. You know, like a crazy cat lady. I can't get rid of these. But so far, I haven't found my favorites, and it still remains a hobby. Look at that fella right there. Thinks I can't see him. In the past couple of videos, I've shown you some things like my veteran peppers there. They're putting on fruit. The figs, we've talked about all that. We've talked about the, oh, this little bed here, check this out. So this was one of the new beds I made, and I've got pole beans growing on the back row. They'll grow up that. I've got some radishes here, and these are my favorite radish, and I harvested a few, but I let these go to seed, and so I'm going to actually save these, just like I did with my turnips this year, and collect the seed, because I want this kind. This is Chinese red meat. It's actually a delicious radish. Very, very delicious. I have a review of my radishes that I grew over the winter, and I'll link you to that. And then over here I've got some table king squash. This is cucurbita pepo. Not supposed to be able to grow this very successfully around here, but I'm just hopeful. I'm going to try it. We'll see. Here's my yellow crookneck squash. This is a pumpkin pit. The first squash I tried in here was a Seminole pumpkin, and the seed failed to germinate. So I just put some yellow squash in, and they're doing just fine. They're happy. Maybe a little slow, but you know, that's the way it goes. All of my pollinator attracting plants that I grew this year are really putting on some beautiful growth. Look at those marigolds. That's just absolutely stunning. My I don't know what these are, nor do I know what these are. I just bought these at Home Depot. But yeah, look at that. I grew that from seed. All of these flowers along my border, I use these to attract pollinators to my garden. And so far it seems to be working. I've seen bees come by, and I've seen solitary bees, and yeah, everybody seems to be getting along in the garden. And if it didn't work, well, they're still beautiful. They're awesome. Another nasturtium I wanted to show you. Look at that. That's a beautiful flower. Isn't that awesome? That's hard to beat. That is hard to beat. It's so nice to just walk through the garden and discover little gems like that hiding in the borders or tucked away underneath. Like these guys here. You come and look at your squash and you get a nice little surprise there. Lemons, tons of them. Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of lemons again this year. I've shown you this tree before. This is my Meyer Lemon tree. Let me back up and make sure I don't trip over something. But you can see that tree is about, what, 8 to 10 feet in diameter in any given direction. That's as big as that tree is gonna get. I just hack parts off of it and prune it back. And you can still see that it gets tons and tons of fruit, more than we can use. And so when I prune it back to keep it small, it still puts on loads and loads of fruit, but I can reach the fruit. And when these plump up and get heavy in December, they'll drop down where you can actually reach them. And yeah, that's a nice tree. Moving out to my front yard, there's my Celeste fig tree. And wild onions growing underneath. It's always a good producer, my favorite fig tree. Despite all my fancy figs I have, that's the one I like the most. But over here, these are my Kogigu pumpkins. And these are pumpkin pits. They are starting, I think, to find that goodness down below. And they're starting to vine out and run. So I'm going to get creative with my lawn care over here so I don't destroy those guys. But I'm hopeful I could get some pumpkins before the borers show up. And I have some strategies I'm going to try that include BT. And injecting the BT, which is it's an insecticide, a natural insecticide. And I'm going to inject it into the stems so that I've heard that can help. We'll see, an experiment. But so far I've been watching the undersides of the leaves and I haven't found any borer eggs yet. Just these little black ants that like to hang out down there. But we seem to be good. This is the latest little project. This is an elderberry tree. This is a bare root tree, and I'm making a separate video on how to plant a bare root tree. I'm currently standing or sitting on the drainage channel I put in the ground, and I'll update you on that. I'm going to put another elderberry right over here, and these will be companions because you need 2 elderberries to get maximum fruit. So there's one, and there'll be another right here. Here's a bit of that zucchini getting grilled up tonight with the burgers. Yeah, that's real good. I've had a little nip there and tasted it. Yeah, that's good stuff. Where are my tongs when I need them? Okay, so there we go. We've harvested, we've looked around, things are really happening in the garden. I couldn't be happier. The bugs have not arrived in any great numbers yet. So right now is the happy times, and I'm sure that we're going to have challenges to come. This is gardening. Challenges always come. But thank you for joining me on a tour of the garden today. I'm so appreciative. Garden tours, man, I don't know why people like them so much, but I enjoy doing them. You enjoy watching them, it seems. So I'll keep doing a beginning of the month and a mid-month tour, and that'll just be the pattern. So hey, thank you for joining me on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Like us, subscribe to us, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Happy gardening to you. Bye-bye.